Welcome to Middle Fingers Up, the show where we hold our heads high and our middle fingers higher. I'm your host, Kieran McKay. Today, I am honored to introduce Zach, the host of Canadian Podcast. Zach's platform provides a valuable space for individuals to share their stories, life lessons, and insights on mental health. Personally, I am a huge fan of Zach's work, as I feel he has made a profound impact on many individuals by encouraging the exploration of personal well-being, which is sort of what we do over here as well. Zach has shown great warmth and support for Middle Fingers Up, and that means a lot to us over here. And I also want to say I genuinely appreciate his commitment to creating a safe environment for open dialogue. It's also worth noting that Zach's talents extend beyond podcasting. He is also skilled in digital media technology, and I learned recently he is a vibrant abstract painter. Really talented. So Zach, welcome.
Thank you, Kieran. Thank you for having me, and what an introduction.
Well, I'm not even done yet. I have more. I just thought I'd unmute you. If brown girls could blush, I'd be so blushing because I am just so excited that we were able to carve this time out, and really want to thank you for a really quick turnaround and agreeing to come on and letting me interview you for a bit today. So just really want to extend a huge thank you to you.
And the same to you. Thank you for having this platform and for voices to be heard. So thank you again.
Yeah. And I just want to tell our listeners, recently I had the privilege, as I said, of reaching out to you and inviting you on our show. And a big reason for that is because I wanted to express my gratitude for your involvement in creating this national initiative called MenTell. And I'm sure people that are listening are aware of this. It's blowing up everywhere on social media, which it should. It's amazing. And MenTell launched in honor of June's mental health, or Men's Health, however you want to say it, Men's Health Month. You'll talk a little more about this, but my understanding is MenTell aims to combat the stigma surrounding men's mental health by fostering a safe space for men to share their thoughts and support one another through various strategies. And as a mom raising a 12-year-old and a 9-year-old boy, and as well as being part of the South Asian community where men often lack these kinds of spaces, this initiative holds a really important personal significance to me. So just wanted to right off the bat start talking about MenTell because it's what allowed me to have the bravery and the courage to reach out and say, hey, will you come and chat with me for a bit? So can we talk about MenTell and the story leading up to how this wonderful initiative came to?
Absolutely. Let's start with that. Yeah, how do I start this? Growing up, I was a hyper kid. Tried to fit into places in my 20s, but I just didn't connect and couldn't figure it out. Obviously, you're back in your own head. Is it me? Is it I'm the only one, the outcast, the black sheep, whatever you want to call it? And I realized that if you find a tribe of people, you're not alone. So my mom had passed away August 7, 2019. She had just turned 55. And, mums are mums. And as a son, it hurts, right? It's just like anybody that loses somebody that they love. And mom was a pillar to the family. So I had to start searching. And, I went down some paths I shouldn't have, like drinking. And, I drank a little too much. But you know what? I was at this point where I said, okay, COVID's here. Mom's gone. What in the world is all this? What's happening? And when you're alone, you can go down two paths. And for myself, I started going down a darker path where it's like, well, Zach, I don't think you need to be here anymore. Life is not that important. You can just leave. But something stopped me, and I don't know what it was. It was the angel above, or my dog, or somebody stopped me and snapped out of it. And literally, it was the next morning I woke up and I said, I'm done. Never touched alcohol again. And I started going on to these online groups and Zoom meetings during the pandemic because, again, no one was meeting up anywhere. And I was able to start building a network of individuals that, are maybe in their 60s, 70s, even 80s, that are telling me stories about, their dark days. And I'm thinking, holy smokes, I could have ended up there. And thank God I met them, because I realized I thought I was the only one messed up or so-called messed up. I think we all struggle. Some can hide it better. I have hidden it better at times. Like I say, is the veil, the mask, right? It's, of course, we all have different masks. One that is, when we're outside with others, one when we're with our family, and one when we're just with ourselves. That is true. But how do we, start bringing transparency within it and being okay? Because, I wasn't okay for a long time. I started the podcast, January 2021. And again, we're in the pandemic, and I said, I need to talk to people because my social life had gone out the drain in a way, in terms of, okay, now you're not drinking, you're not going to the bars, the pubs, hanging out with people. How do you interact? And, didn't matter who they were. Having them on the podcast, I realized we're all the same. And it doesn't matter what culture, what background. I think everybody struggles. We so often look at individuals and say, that's success, or that person's got it made. Nobody's got it made. We all have these battles we have to overcome. And I think it's, how do we cope through it? I used to strive for perfection, and I don't think that exists. I think it's progress now, not perfection.
Wow. I don't want to say anything. Like, I want you to just keep talking. First of all, I just want to thank you for sharing that. You shared a lot about grief and loss, and a 20-year-old boy becoming a man, and so much in between, and addiction as well. And I think whoever that angel or whatever that energy was that reached out to you, I'm wondering if that's a big part of what MenTell is, and what you're doing out there is you had someone or something guide you in that moment. And there are so many men and so many people out there that aren't here today to talk about that because they didn't have that, or
right.
Things happen sometimes and opportunities are missed. And it sounds like there was an opportunity that sort of presented itself before you.
Absolutely. And it could have been missed. I was so close to saying, I'm throwing in the towel. But people saved me. And obviously I'm here today because of the people around that, oftentimes you don't think are going to be there, and the people that are there are never there, kind of a thing. Isn't that the funny case in life at times?
Totally.
But what I realized is, you surround yourself with a group of people, a good group of people that truly have your back, not just on the good days, but on the days that you need someone to talk to. You can really conquer a lot of things in life. So MenTell had been around in my mind and, formulating for years, maybe 2 years, and just couldn't have the courage to get going.
Yeah. But
over this last year, I've met a really good group of men from walks of life. There's a gentleman named Sean Taylor, and he was a veteran and a coach, an extreme sport coach. And this individual has, said, hey, go ahead, do this. I like it. If you fall, who cares? Get back up.
Yes.
And I'm thinking, such a obvious phrase.
Yeah.
So far for some people, because you just can't start because you're afraid.
Yeah.
And said, all right, I'm on this, let's go. And now, there's a group of us from all walks of life that are just some people I absolutely admire for different traits within them. Some are how extreme they are in what they have done in their life, but yet they have this soft side. So it's beautiful to see that. And then I said, okay, we're going to do this. You can't do it like the ALS Ice Bucket Challenge.
Like a little fad, right?
Well, exactly. And the other thing is you can't nominate someone because not everybody's ready to speak.
Well said.
Right? It's only when you're ready, if you want to. And that's why we say is we encourage you to share it online or in person with someone. As long as they're having the conversation, that's important to us. And that's a start to kind of moving this forward. Because you don't see anybody else really talking about Men's Mental Health Awareness Month online, do you? You don't.
Yeah. I think it's so necessary. I think mental health, as we know, as you talk about so well on your show, it's part of everyone and everything. So we have to talk about it. However, when we can focus in and maybe shed a little bit of light for men, I think it's so necessary, especially since we have a lot of work to go back and do for and with men. And right, there's always this toxic masculinity. I've talked about it. We talk about it. However, I think it's kind of sometimes makes men, and I can't speak for men, but what I've been told is it makes you feel bad when we shed light on toxic masculinity because there's about the empathy of what a man may be going through and how a man got to where he is when there is toxic masculinity, but also there's got to be accountability too for men to be able to go back and say, okay, how do we reshift this or rescript this dialogue? And I think anyone and everyone could be helping reshifting that dialogue because it impacts all of us. We all have dads, we all have brothers, we all have friends, we all have partners, we all have sons, right?
But it starts within us, as guys, it's, I would say it's like we coexist in this planet of ours where there's males, there's females, and, they, thems, or whatever you want to say. But we all live together. How do we make it? So instead of the titles and all that stuff, it's more or less as like, if you're a guy and you are struggling, you're not alone. Mm-hmm. You might think that no one gets it because I was there. People get it. Other men have gone through what you're going through or similar situations. Holding that in will affect your relationships, your friendships, your work. And it can be a catastrophe.
Totally. Yeah, absolutely. Like a wildfire. Absolutely. It spreads and it spreads fast. And sometimes you don't even realize you're in it because it's been ingrained in all of us that there is a certain way that men are supposed to behave and be, and over centuries and generations and decades, however we want to put it, some understanding happens. However, like you said, it often becomes or can be a fad. We talked about it for a minute and now we're going to move away from it. But you said it best. It's part of you. It's always there. It's when you start with yourself, there's a lot to unpack there. So I wanted to go back for a sec though. When you shared your story and you said you had this idea for some time. I know it wasn't the right time for various reasons for you. Now that you've launched this initiative, what are you finding? What are you learning that maybe you could have gone back and talked to that Zach about or helped that Zach with? Like, what are some things that men are saying out there in these videos that you're learning?
Oh, where do you start on that? One is movement, getting out there, connecting with nature. We are so caught up in a tech world today where you can just apply all your force and might on the phone, the work, the TV, the computers, and never get outside.
Yeah.
You take that minute to breathe that fresh air, depending on the Alberta air quality, but
yeah.
right? You got to get out there. The other thing is rest, the importance of rest. I can't even tell you how many times I've burnt myself out. It's not even someone else did it. It's me. I know when to stop, but I would push myself.
Yeah.
To breaking points. And now I try to avoid that as best as possible.
Right.
But it's a lot of that. And the fact that you see these men that are tough as nails from all walks of life speak up in a simple manner with, hey, my name is, and I speak for mental health. I mean, that's brave on its own, just that phrase. But to go in and share a tip, an activity, or a quote, it's remarkable. And I thank each one of them because we're all opening up the conversations, the doors. I mean, you can see it in the comments. Sure, we're not at thousands of people or thousands of men just yet, but it started, I don't know, second week of June. I said, okay, I'm doing this.
Yeah.
If I don't today, when am I going to do it? And I think if you scroll down in my feed, especially on Canadian podcasts, you might see a few times where I posted MenTell, but I never knew what to do with it.
Mm-hmm.
Posted it as like my own cry for help in a way. I think there's something, but no.
Yeah.
And then I would go back in my cocoon. Yeah. And I think that's something I do enjoy. And you brought up art. I just love creating things. And I mean, what is it? You go to the gravesite and I think these things, and I think how many dreams and goals just are buried here. Why don't we empty ourselves out? Yes, we're going to make a fool of ourselves. We're going to trip, but get back up. There's always another day, the sunrise, a coffee, just enjoy it. Yeah. Like today, the guy I posted, Jason, he was an ex-cop, and he was outside soaking in the sunrise. And I thought, that is beautiful. There was a guy recently that was on, and what did he do? He was talking about micro wins throughout the day.
Yeah.
Yeah. His name was Ryan Heath, and he said, doing these micro wins will get you to where you want to get to, and at the end of the day, you'll feel accomplished. So, doing your bed every morning. Mm-hmm. Doesn't sound like you're changing the world, but guess what? You're changing your world.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, so well said, Zach. Like, so many points that you've made in there. I think I've been watching some of these videos, and you're right. When you go back and we just go back and hit your point about men of different cultures and ages and looks and jobs, and they're doing all sorts of different things. And I think that first of all is so powerful, because when you're isolated, and whether you're a man or human, whoever you are, when you're isolated and you're in your head in the way that you can get, it's hard to think, as you mentioned earlier, that there's other people out there that are experiencing what you are, because everyone looks so well put together. And when you watch these videos of these men, no one is anywhere the same as the other. You don't have one culture, you don't have one job title. So I think that's a really important message for men out there, that there's so many men out there that are willing to be vulnerable, and also ask through vulnerability, hey, can you help me? But also understand that you have a lot to give. Like, every one of these dudes in these videos has a really cool strategy that works for them. And they say, this works for me. But I think when you go catalog all that, you think, oh, there's a lot of different things that I can try, or maybe my idea isn't that crazy after all. A walk isn't that bad, because sometimes you think things have to be more complicated when you're trying to treat something more complicated, like, let's say, depression, low mood, feeling lack of worth, and so many other things to follow that.
I agree. And I think it was Saturday, I went on a long drive, I think for like 4 hours, just by myself, windows down, and just soaked it all in, clear your head. And I came back and I felt good. Mm-hmm. And sometimes it's just silence, I had no music on, just listening to the wind, and on the prairie side. But it was nice. It felt good.
Yeah.
You got to do what works for you. But you're right, though. When you go on Instagram, everybody's got some sort of a filter on, or they only show their best side.
Yeah.
Which there's nothing wrong with, because you don't want to show yourself always crying or upset, because then, I don't know, it gets draining for the follower, I would say. Right. So it's important to show all facets of your life. And I think that's also another reason why I started the podcast, and I'm sure with yourself, is like, a picture is one thing, but who are you as a person? Like, within your soul, because who we are physically is just a shell. It'll go one day. It's just the soul lives on. So who are you? We're not perfect. I'm not perfect, but we can learn from each other.
Yeah.
To strive to be better than we were yesterday. And I think that's the goal.
Yeah.
The thing that I was thinking about recently was with MenTell, is it needed to be simple, and it needed to be powerful enough for people to understand. It doesn't have to be man up, because that comes with a negative notion, doesn't it?
And a lot of pressure.
It's a lot of pressure. Oh man, you checking? Come on, man. Man up. Right? And
be a man.
Be a man. It's like, okay, I understand what that means, but what does it truly mean? Right? We're all human beings. We're beings and living. So let's work together. And I think we can all live peacefully, hopefully.
Yeah, there's a lot of gratitude in how you speak. This appreciation of being here and being healthy mentally, physically, and then everything else is just an extra, I think, gain in our life account. But the simple piece about being and existing can, be complicated by all of us complicating humans. And I like how you try to strip that all away and just say, yeah, just send a video. But the key really isn't about the video. The key really is, let's talk. Let's just get out here and start talking. And I had a guest on, a male therapist, a few weeks ago, and he said it really well. He's like, we're all just waiting for someone else to do it first when it comes to these hard things. And I kudos to you for doing it first and getting out there and using your own story as a beautiful backdrop to this initiative.
And it's never one person. It's all of us. It's Karen, you being there supporting me in the Canadian podcast, and so many other individuals, because it all adds up to the story of courage. All it takes is a little bit of hope in somebody to say, you got this, don't worry. And you're a mom, and I'm sure with your kids, pushing them to do something in life, they might hesitate, just as many children do. Don't worry, Mom's here. Dad's here. We got this.
That's right. Can I ask you, I wanted to know, what do you think is the biggest barrier behind men's mental health?
Well, I think we think a strong man is somebody that doesn't break, doesn't have any cracks or splinters in them. I think we think that somebody doesn't cry. Like I said, man up. Hold it in. Deal with it yourself. You're the provider, or whatever it may be. I mean, again, it depends on the culture, depends on the vibe of the household. But if I was just talking about certain cultures, I think it's frowned upon, because it looks bad on the family. It looks bad on the caste, right? Especially in the East Indian cultures. That's what I speak on. So, thank God, mom, dad, family was very encouraging for me to always speak and share and express myself in whatever way I could possibly do. And a lot of the time it was hard, because sometimes I couldn't vocalize how I felt, so I could express it in a different medium. It's interesting how it works.
Yeah.
Looking.
Well, you also described yourself as a kid quite hyper, so to have that much energy, but to sit with a paintbrush and wave it around with all those colors, I think that's interesting too. How it's like the yin and the yang.
Yin to the yang, exactly. scribbling around.
Yeah, right. Just like most parents, right? Sit still, especially to boys, because boys in general can be, not all, but many. My experiences can have a lot more energy, and struggle to ground their mind and ground their body. And we talk about that in my house too. Like, we practice being bored, because that's very difficult for my kids sometimes, especially today with technology and all sorts of things that are right there in their hands. And so I think sometimes for men, I see from my experience the struggle to just stop for a second to go to the place of what's really happening. I know my husband and I talk a lot of time. It becomes about fixing, like, again, jumping to the next thing. Let's fix it. Let's fix it. And what I like about what you're doing with this initiative is asking people to pause for a second and kind of do a body mind scan about where you're at, and also acknowledging the things that you do well. Like, you ask for strategies, and every single one of those men in there shares more than one strategy about what, or at least from the ones that I've watched, about what can work. And sometimes you don't give yourself enough credit. You think, I don't know how to handle this, or I'm always feeling this way, or how come I keep coming back to this issue? But when you stop and give yourself a little credit, you realize, oh, I do have some strategies. I do sometimes feel that I can take care of myself without having to fix it.
Well, there's something about sitting still and sitting with yourself, with your thoughts. Can you do it? Because I could not do it for a long time. I started running, and so you hit a wall. It could have been my 30s. It would have been maybe my 50s. But I'm happy I was able to catch it. I wish it was earlier in life, but it is what it is. Mm-hmm. I've changed. And I think now what it is, can I sit with myself? If I can't, why? What is going on? What is bothering me truly, And I can't stress this. And, a few men had brought this up in their videos, is the importance of surrounding yourself with good people, good connections. There's a gentleman named Travis Bader. He was one of the first few that had made a video. He's walking outside. And he mentioned that there was a Harvard study done, an 85-year Harvard study done on happiness. And basically, the people that lived the longest and the most fulfilled said it was due to social connection, good social connections, bonds, people, vibe. And in today's era, we can get nervous, right? Because whose eyeballs are looking at us on social media? Who's listening to us? Mm-hmm. They have the best intentions for us, or are they ill-meaning or spirited? How do you find that? So people that you truly love and jive with, hold on to them, I think. But it's gut instinct too. It's live and learn. We sometimes think certain people are our friends, and they're not, and strangers are our biggest fans.
Yeah. I would agree sometimes. That's right. Strangers can be our biggest fans. I'm curious about, for any man listening today, like, what is something that you could suggest, or, help build a little bridge to them to walk over? They have things on their minds, but they're not, they're thinking, oh, I have a bit of a village. I have a good friend or a family member that I could talk to, but just like you, when you weren't ready yet with MenTell, like, when do I do it? Should I do it? I don't know. What would you suggest to that man listening today about how to just spring and go for it, take that leap, have that conversation about those things on your mind?
Sure. I think one thing I've learned is life is short. We have one life. Mom died within, months of us knowing that she was sick and gone. And all of a sudden you're like, what the heck happened? So what I've realized is life is short. I was going to say, maybe I'll do it next year, Karen. But I was like, this is it. Who cares? Who cares what people think? You're going to care next year just as much as you do this year. Let it be. I made that video and I got a little sick after, actually. I had to go lie down for a few hours. The first video, because I was nervous. I was so weirded out that I did that, and I said, what am I doing? It's that voice in our heads that can shut us down. So if any guys out there, I mean, look at MenTell. If you have the right group of people around you, you truly can inspire others to move, to grow, and to learn from one another. We might think we have it made in life, but there's always something to learn once you open your mindset up, which, you know, I think ego's there. It's always going to be there, but how do you turn it down a few notches in life? I think you should have a little bit of ego, a healthy ego, not a toxic ego. I've been on both ends. But I think if you have a healthy ego, you can really open your mind up, but yet still stand up for yourself. Because I think you should still have some sort of a backbone, male or woman or whatever you may be. You know, I want people to have courage and hope, because so many people lose hope and their dreams die. Yeah. And it's time to change that. If I can do that, and if we can do that, why not?
Yeah. Sometimes it's a little, very well said. And sometimes it's a little, I feel like I can exhale a little longer sometimes when I know and hear other people around me sharing their hard day, how they turned it around, or sharing something thoughtful. And often I think people are doing that actually in our circles. It's just, where am I at? Am I in the place today? Am I in a place right now as a human that can open and you know, we talk about self-awareness, have this awareness of, oh yeah, they are sharing good things. I can share something too. Because sometimes I think we are quick to help. We want to help people, and a lot of men in my life that I know are whatever. Yes, I'm there to help fix a problem, want to help, like to be relied on. And sometimes I think we have to remind our loved ones and ourselves that in order to give help, we have to also be okay to accept it and take it too. It's a two-way street. What do you think about that?
I 100% agree. You know, I read a quote, I don't know who wrote it, but it said, edit your life ruthlessly, because at the end of the day, it is your masterpiece. Right? So it's our book. And, you know, Kevin Hart talked about it once, saying, you know, what is your book? What is it going to look like at the end of the day? I like surrounding myself with people that have gone through stuff in life.
Yeah.
Not always negative, but positive, and it's older people, I guess you'd say, just to understand what life was like back then. And we have today. I mean, we look back at our parents even coming to Canada, or grandparents coming to Canada, and just how, you know, with children at the time.
Totally, yeah. Starting a brand new life, new identity, new everything.
I gotta say though, it's the community, it's people like you. It's just the online community that gave me hope. Strangers, and I thank everybody. I thank everybody that's been on the podcast, and just the people that have supported the journey. And, you know, that's all we can do, right? We can just, another day, let's keep going.
Totally. Another day, one day at a time.
Exactly.
And it's like those micro wins that one of your guests on the videos talked about, right? Like you said, just stopping and recognizing as we try to often sprint this marathon, slow down and just acknowledge, look back and see how far you've come, because we miss those little things along the way, and those little things are what help us get to the big game in the end, right? And so I like how you say that. I know we have a little bit more time with you. This is where the bossiness comes out, so my apologies. But I'm gonna ask you before you go 2 questions. One is, I'd like to do a middle fingers up segment with you. So I'd be very honored if you join me in sharing something that you would like to throw your middle fingers up to, something that you'd like to get off your chest.
Fear. Fuck fear. Seriously.
Fuck fear. I like that.
Yeah. It's that was another thing, a phrase thing I was working on for years, and then I got rid of it. It was actually an Instagram account called Fuck Fear.
I love it. It should be the quote for this episode. I don't want to take away from MenTell, but I mean, it really helps. It's like the slogan for MenTell. Fuck fear.
It 100% is, you know, stop we are our own worst critics. Stop holding yourself back. Again, one life. You're gonna suffer in silence. You're gonna suffer in the dark, or you can stop for a second and know that there are hands out there that'll literally help you get out of what you're going through as best as they possibly can.
Yeah, I like that.
There's a lot of people that get stuck in the victim mentality. And don't get me wrong, we all struggle, but then there's choices.
Mm-hmm.
I believe that there's light at the end of the tunnel. I know that there is because I see it.
Mm-hmm.
Some days it gets dark and then light, and it's okay. It's not alone. But you have a group of men and women out there that will help. And, I think about the MenTell slogan is men helping men survive themselves. Let's build a tribe. Let's seriously put that middle finger up to the things that hold us back and say, fuck it. So, definitely fuck fear.
I love it. I love it. I love how professional you are, but then when the swearing comes out, it's so nice to see.
Is it? What would a non-professional say it like?
No, you just like you and you're on your show. And when how I see you from afar, right? It's always that how we see others before ourselves. But you're so well spoken. Your social media page is so well kept. You speak great with intent. And so when I get to hear the swearing, I don't know, I always like it because I'm a big fan of it. It makes me feel good.
Oh, yeah. Well, what makes swearing feel good for you? Where did that
Great question. Oh, because it wasn't allowed. Because we weren't allowed to do it. So
yes, I was swearing in the house.
Right? Exactly. Like, wouldn't you get the crap kicked out of you if you ever use a swear word in your house as a kid? I would.
The wooden spoon.
Yeah. My mom didn't need a wooden spoon. Her hands were wooden enough, man. You did. So, the things that were forbidden, I think. And it's interesting you talk about fear because fear-based parenting was a lot of how our communities, our parents raised us. And like you said, you come to a foreign country. How can you not be fearful of anything and everything? You don't know what you're doing. And now you're raising a kid that was born in this foreign country. So I get that fear mentality quite a bit. However, I also appreciate when others around me can talk about letting go because it is hard to do alone. And I think when there's folks like you, when you're with the initiative like MenTell, with the episodes and the guests and the stories you have on, all of that I think is such a good example of how to help people maybe feel less fearful. And like you said, just a little bit hopeful every day in that, okay, there's a possibility. People are role modeling this every day. We just have to stop staring at celebrities and tune into real life people a little more. And you get to see a lot of brave people out there. And you said it best in the beginning too. It's not about being perfect. Like I think we try to be something we don't know how. I don't know anyone that knows how to be perfect, but yet we keep striving for it.
I'm done, trying to be somebody I'm not.
Well, yeah.
I'm okay because I'm at peace being who I am. And again, if people don't like it, so be it. It's just I'll find my people and you find your people, and that's okay too.
That's exactly it. Yeah.
Not everyone like you in life, and it is what it is, right? Just continue. As long as you're calm, you're peaceful, you're not trying to hurt anybody. That's what matters.
Yep, my aunt used to always say that. As long as you're not hurting yourself or someone else, the choices you're making can't be that bad. And I used to always remember that in the background as a kid, like, oh, okay, yeah, maybe I can eat that, chocolate bar or whatever issue that I thought it was. But
Karen, think about this. You started this podcast. I've started this podcast. It's genuine curiosity of another individual. It's their story. Who are you? And at the same time, those guests, the people on MenTell that are getting out there, these men sharing, I'm learning to be a better me. Aren't you? Didn't you learn when you were having these guests?
100%. Like, this is why people are like, how long do you plan on doing this? And I'm like, as long as guests are willing to come on, because I feel like I'm the selfish one, because I feel I'm in a place where I want to be a better human. And it's a slow journey, but it's happening. And guests like yourself and all the ones before have contributed to my little toolbox of how to manage, whether it's parenting, through therapy, life stories, all the things in between, right? So I think the more we, like you said, dial down the noise that kind of gets in our head and traps us and tricks us, and tune up stories and conversations. A lot of us, I think, respond well to storytelling because it makes us feel things. And it personalizes it for us. So to hear other stories, I think, is a great place to start. If others out there aren't sure, what do I do? How do I do it? Tune in to why don't you drop your plug at this point and tell us where people can tune in and listen to you?
Well, you can listen to me on the Middle Finger podcast.
Yeah, that's right.
Shout out.
I love you.
And technically visit the CanadianPodcast.ca, or you can check out MenTell.ca. So it's MENTELL.ca. And follow it on Instagram as well. I'll send you the links, or you have the links.
I do. Yeah, I will post those. I'll put those up. So my two last, I said I lied to you. I said I had 2 questions, but I have 3. The second last one is there anything that you wish I had asked you or that you wanted to talk about yourself today that maybe we didn't cover?
No, I think that gives us the opportunity for an in-person.
Yes. Okay, good. More personal story stuff. Okay, good. Sorry for that creepy smile. I forgot you can see me. The last one is I always ask my guests to do my work for me. And so I'd love for you to share, kind of like a call to action. So something that our listeners can maybe go and do or think about based on our conversation today. What do you want to leave them with?
So if you're somebody that's struggling, reach out.
You took time out of your day to come on and talk about something really important to me, to so many other humans and men out there. And I just wanted to make sure that people on my end, in case they hadn't seen your initiative, that they will now. So we will put this episode out soon for folks to get involved. And as well, I always say to our listeners that these conversations we have are door openers. And so if you're really interested in what Zach and I talked about today, you can reach us at info@mfupodcast.com or on Instagram at MFU Podcast. If you have ideas for other topics or things on your mind that you want us to cover, please reach out to us. Otherwise, thank you again, Zach, and thank you to everybody for listening.